And welcome to Interesting to See, your daily sports podcast, news, narratives, takes, gambling, just daily sports stuff. I am Nick. Like, rate, review, subscribe, make your friends listen, make your friends watch on YouTube.com or on Spotify, wherever podcasts are found, etc. No clip today. Just thought I'd wing it. Well, I'm not going to wing it, but no clip today. Moving toward the NFL regular season. It's coming in hot. I've decided to do my fantasy football preview show next week, so today we're just going to focus on the news and the narratives and maybe take a look at some gambling. Tomorrow, NFL fantasy football begins. Preseason games start, which there are a lot of market inefficiencies. There's ways to win. I know some of the ways to win. I will not be taking responsibility for your mistakes at the card table. Please gamble responsibly. For example, the New York Giants are a 3-point favorite over the New England Patriots. I would smash that. For depth reasons, starters won't be playing, but the Giants, they both have new offenses. The Patriots seem incompetent. All right, fantasy football stuff. Then we're going to get to LIV Golf. We're going to do we got some stuff to talk about. The first thing we're talking about is fantasy football. We're going to do my official preview. I did want to highlight two podcasts, and all of you will know about these. They're insanely popular. But if you don't know about them and you're just dabbling in sports, I should do a podcast preview for the NFL season. I thought about writing a blog, the good ones and the bad ones. There are two NFL fantasy football podcasts that will genuinely help you be a better fantasy football player, but are also awesome. Those fantasy football podcasts that I like are the Fantasy Footballers, which are just like three bros in Arizona who, like, they made fantasy football their life and their business about 10 years ago, and like it's incredibly successful and one of the most downloaded podcasts of all time. It's insane. So they do everything that you need to know. They have a bunch of listener leagues. They do a bunch of cool stuff. If you're a manager of a league and there's still time to bail on ESPN or NFL for your app, the best fantasy football app is called Sleeper. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. It's pretty sick. The other fantasy football podcast that I highly recommend is the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. That actually might be the best NFL podcast. Those three bros, they got like movie nerds and dorks. Not a lot of men here, not a lot of women in any of these shows. Is a theme that you will notice, but the times are changing, one would hope. It's called the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, and it's the Ringer guys, which is Bill Simmons' thing, which is kind of like The Athletic, but like a little worse because Bill Simmons is not as great as he thinks he is. So with the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, they do basically the same stuff, but it's also the way that they talk about it is a good way to stay informed on the league. And during the season, all of these companies have a Friday football gambling show. Their gambling show is the best, and it's absolutely hysterical, and it's not advice I would recommend anyone. I would never bet on it, most of those things, but it's just a good show. Those two podcasts would be the most helpful for your draft, which should be after the second round of preseason games. Some of you are drafting this weekend. Good luck. Whichever Achilles or ACL tears, knock on wood, hopefully there are none, hey, that's on you. Okay. Links in the show notes? No. Fantasy Footballers, Ringer Fantasy Football Podcast. We're going to use some of their resources to tell you some of the narratives in fantasy football and what you should care about, who's up, who's down, whatever. If your draft is coming up this weekend, my advice to you is that there are 4 players who meet all of the criteria for historically winning leagues. Those 4 players are DeAndre Swift of the Detroit Lions. Oh, my God, I always get this guy. Deontay Williams of the Denver Broncos. I always forget that guy's name. Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Saquon Barkley of the New York Giants. I love all of those guys. I also love Trey Lance as a quarterback sleeper, etc. We'll get into that next week when it is time. We'll do the preseason gambling preview coming up tomorrow. We do have this clip from Bills camp. This is so funny. So Case Keenum, who is really short and one of the greatest college football quarterbacks of all time, maybe the best college football quarterback of all time with Houston, like an insane amount of records, an insane amount of wins. He's been a backup in the league for a long time, damn near won a Super Bowl with the Vikings in 2017. They got annihilated by the Eagles in the conference championship. Now he's the backup quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, and he went undercover because he's so unassuming to see how many of his teammates he could get to give him an autograph, like at training camp. Just a hysterical idea.
Let's go Bills.
Hey, Isaiah, man, can I get your autograph, man? I've been a big fan of yours, man. Ever since you was in college, man. Will you do it one more time for me, man? It's kind of hard to read.
This is so funny.
Is this Case?
I'm about to get you twice.
He's-
Hey, Gabe, can I get your autograph, man?
He
Hey,
sniffed
man,
it out.
you're my favorite player,
I don't know who number
man.
13 is. It's a receiver.
Who's your favorite backup quarterback? Okay, I'll see you later, man.
Who's your favorite backup
Good
quarterback?
look out there, man.
And then this guy turns around and figures it out.
You
Here's
looking good as you.
Here's Josh Allen. Oh, the security guard is escorting him out.
Josh!
And here's Josh Allen.
Josh! Man, you're my favorite player, man. You're my favorite player, man.
They spent all day together, and it takes him 1, 2, 3 looks. He figures it out. This is the kind of cool content that's happening right now to distract from the fact that people are getting hurt. Please, nobody get hurt. It's NFL training camp time. Little League World Series is happening. Actually, I don't really know. I'm not 100% sure when it is happening. That's a good. We should Google that. But it's coming up. I think it's this week. No, it's next week. Okay, so next week the Little League World Series begins in earnest. 1 week from yesterday. Yeah, so it's usually in the middle of the week on a Thursday or Friday. That's right. Okay, I feel totally fine about that. It's next week. Don't gamble on that. Be an adult. You can be a grown-up. You shouldn't gamble on that. News from the NFL. 2 things that are annoying. The first is that for those of us that love playing football video games as a way to pass the time, when you may or may not be employed due to circumstances outside your control, Madden, the NFL franchise video game, has gone downhill. And the reason it has is because it's becoming too realistic, but then also it's an avenue for people in Silicon Valley and video game land to kind of have their sports takes. So people have these wrong ratings all the time and everybody gets roasted. And then the game is unrealistic. So it's too realistic for how unrealistic it is. So that it looks too good and it's too slow and it's too much of a simulation, while also being just bad at football stuff. So the players don't play it anymore because it's like, what the fuck is this safety doing back here? He would rotate up, and like NFL players would know that. The video game guys like, we can't do everything, but then like, why is it so real? Why does Josh Allen really look like Josh Allen? They're coming up on the Uncanny Valley. And if you don't know what the Uncanny Valley is, it's very well explained in a couple hit TV shows, 30 Rock, Rick and Morty, South Park. The Uncanny Valley is this robotics theory that happened. This would be a good episode for my other podcast, Game Theory, but is a theory that was invented in Japan that the closer something looks to a human, the creepier it is. So it looks, we like it more when it's realistic, and then when it gets too realistic, we're like, ew, gross. And then when it gets super realistic, it's just like a clone or a real person. So it's up, drop. We hate it. Think the best example is Polar Express. Have you ever seen the animated movie Polar Express? You're like, this it looks like Tom Hanks. I don't like this. Yeah, that's the Uncanny Valley, and Madden is flirting with that while also being shitty. And I say all of that to say this: they've renewed their agreement. So nobody else. It's going to be Electronic Arts, EA Sports. It's in the game, which is on the NASDAQ. They're publicly traded. No, that explains all of this shit. Publicly traded companies cannot be trusted. Their product is not their product. Their stock price is their product. God. Okay. So they've renewed this agreement. It's going to be for like 10 more years. And our hopes of a good video game maker taking over the Madden franchise are dashed. Other news from the NFL. This is really important. So listen up. Pay attention. This is incredibly important. If you're not paying attention, I didn't shut my alarm off. If you're not paying attention, this will fuck you and you will not know why. Thursday Night Football is on Amazon. It's not on TV. It's not on TV. It's not on TV. Pay attention. It is not on television. Thursday Night Football is on Amazon. I'm freaking out because the league has not made this clear to people that when it comes to Thursday night and you get off work or you wake up in the morning or wherever the hell you're listening, it's not going to be on your TV. It's going to be on the Amazon app. You have to have the Amazon app, and I don't know if it's free. You probably need Prime, I would imagine. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You turn it on. If you have to pay for it, you have to pay for it. If you don't, you don't. It's cheaper than cable, whatever. It's on Amazon. No one has made this clear to the people that this is on Amazon. No one. It would probably be a good time to start paying attention to that. If you're the league. And Amazon's going to be pissed because wouldn't you do you remember when the Manning brothers did football on your phone? If you've been watching for 10 years, you remember that? Yeah, well, you know what that means? You can watch football on your phone. That's marketing. No one has marketed this. No one has marketed this, which is a disaster. Remember when the Thursday Night Football was on the NFL Network and everyone's like, well, where's Thursday Night Football? Well, it's on the NFL Network. Well, if you had shoved this in our face for the last 6 months, we would have remembered. We would have remembered that, but no one did. You ever catch yourself singing back in the day, $5 foot long? Yeah, that's marketing. Nobody marketed this. news from the NFL. This is going to be fun. Holy shit. So Deshaun Watson, who's going to be suspended and fined like perhaps 8 digits for being a sexual predator, that's like confirmed. I don't even think I'm alleging that anymore. I think everyone's just like, yeah, you're a creep. An arbitrary judge has ruled that you're a sexual predator. So he's going to play in the preseason opener. One, he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. That is objectively stupid. There are like 20 teams that have real life starting quarterbacks, good or bad, that like they shouldn't even be in the stadium. First of all, I guess the Browns don't care because he can get hurt, and then what? He misses the season. Who cares? Which he did have the ACL. Like, is he still good? I don't even remember playing. The last time he played, I think he got his ass whipped by Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship, if memory serves, or divisional round, whatever. So he's going to play. They're going to play him in the preseason opener, which is stupid from a football standpoint, but then like the fans are going to deal with it, and then the media. Every time the Browns put him in front of a camera, they are going to get ridiculed. Browns fans are all over Twitter and Reddit. This is a narrative. There are free agents. If you have a favorite NFL football team, you can recruit a Browns fan. It's happening all over. There are a lot of Browns fans in the national media that are like, I'm done with this fucking sexual predator that you gave $230 million to, and now they're going to play him in the preseason. The stupidity of this is really alarming. Okay, we got to talk about LIV Golf. We haven't really talked about it. So LIV Golf is the Saudi-funded golf option for golfers. Now, there's a lot of game theory here. There's a lot of market analytics because the PGA Tour was the only show in town for quite a while. And then this LIV Tour, it says LIV, but the reason it's LIV is because it's 54 holes. So instead of playing 72 holes, which is 4 rounds, they play 54, which is objectively better. 4 rounds for a championship is stupid. I do like having golf on Thursdays, but we don't always need golf on Sunday, so you can kind of, maybe this tournament starts on Thursday. It's like, that's smart. And they're doing some smart things. The other thing that they're doing is paying golfers an ass ton of money, because they have almost $500 billion in cash to just spend because the Brits gave away Saudi Arabia in World War I, and it turned out there was a ton of oil there. And they don't have a government or democracy, so they can just do what they want. This is called sport washing. And sport washing is when you do sports and music and a bunch of stuff to make it look like you're a normal place. We saw the Soviet Union do this in the 60s and the 70s. So they're doing this, but there has been an antitrust lawsuit filed between the PGA and LIV. Okay, so in the first hearing, what we found out was that LIV was lying to the players. Originally, the PGA, who pays like a bit of a salary, but then also winnings, but LIV has kind of called them on their shit that they're not paying their golfers enough. Tiger Woods should have 2 or 3 times as much money as he has. He's worth so much more. I don't know if he needs it, but they should pay them more. It's kind of a monopoly. They don't have to. LIV kind of called them on that. Now there's a lawsuit over this. I forget who's suing who. That kind of doesn't matter right now, but LIV originally pitched to the players that you get this enormous salary, millions of dollars, which for the biggest golfers, the names that people love, big deal. But then for the mid-level, and I'm just going to call them like the PGA losers, the guys that only be there for 2 years or so before they get kicked out in the next wave of college grads, those guys are getting paid too because they just need people to fill up the tournaments. But LIV made it seem like they would get these big salaries and big winnings, but it found out that they lied to all of the players, and that if you win, it comes out of your salary, which was not supposed to be the case. And none of these golfers' agents fucking looked at it. None of them. And maybe they did and didn't read the contract thoroughly. I don't. So I think that the LIV players are suing the PGA so that they can be in the PGA Tour, because the PGA Tour is like, you can't do both, which is also stupid. I originally thought that this LIV thing was going to be bad. Honestly, it's just where the money comes from that's bad because of, terrorism and murder and like women's rights and just like women existing. But they did call them on their shit. The problem is that it's a terrible product. Nobody watched on TV. The LIV event at Trump's resort in Florida, tickets were selling for $1, which is actually doesn't even cover the expense of hosting it on the app. But this is going to be quite the mess. The fact that the LIV Tour lied to their players about how much money they were going to get means and then what are they going to do? Crawl back to the PGA? Because every player that goes to LIV, the PGA suspends immediately. No one knows what's going to happen. I think we're headed to a place like boxing where we're going to get pay-per-view, and I don't know. I think I'm pretty sure more people play golf now than ever by an enormous margin, but fewer people watch, which is kind of always how I felt about golf. I love playing golf. I'm going to play golf probably tomorrow and maybe Saturday, but I'm not going to watch it. I watched the Masters. I watched the Open Championship. I watch... What's the one? The Players. The Players is the coolest one, for sure. Tennis coming up. Serena Williams announced her retirement. We'll talk about Serena as the U.S. Open approaches. Whether or not she's the greatest tennis player of all time, I don't think so. Personally, we'll get into that. Greatest female athlete of all time, one of the greatest athletes of all time, definitely, perhaps. We'll talk about that and how we live in this era of greatness. And there have been like 40 people who have just been running international athletics, by far the best, which is kind of crazy. So we'll talk about that, all of that coming up next week. Little League World Series as well. Preseason, our first Football Friday is tomorrow. Preseason gambling, we'll do that. Fantasy football next week. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Back and better than ever tomorrow.